Testing 1, 2, 3.
Everything.
No, you don't have to have a formed opinion on everything. What you do have to have is the ability to know when you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
But I just said that. I said that to you the entire time.
I said this would.
I said I don't believe it. And then you asked me, and I said this wouldn't be the hill I chose to die on because I don't.
Right,
I don't
but why
follow
even
it.
say you don't believe in it?
I fell victim to the idea that like it was progress. It was progress. It was progress. We have to care about the environment. It was progress. And it's like, no, like we've been losing. America has been losing. And Donald Trump understood that in a way that I didn't. And
I don't think we have to care about the environment? Like, what do you...
No, not even a little bit. Like,
not even a little bit?
No. Okay, let me clarify this. I don't throw trash on the ground. Like I'm not saying like we need to like, trash the environment. Like, but do I believe in climate change? No.
You don't believe in climate change?
Well, I think the climate always changes, I guess is what I should say. Do I believe that this is like, an issue that is being, that is global warming, which they've changed conveniently. They got rid of the word once scientists started disproving it. Now they only say climate change.
Okay, but this is an incredibly complicated subject.
Right.
And if you would have to talk to a bunch of different scientists and see how they gather data and see what they understand about CO2 levels and what's the danger of them and what can combat it and what could not. Have you done all this, or do you take this flippant opinion based on the party line?
This wouldn't be the hill I died on, right? But it's not about the part. I just genuinely, I've read a ton about it, but I would not be able to come to you and say like, this is my strong opinion. But here's like the easiest way to say this, right?
Okay.
The fact that there is a disparity in the science community about whether or not it's real is enough to.
It's very little, very little disparity. Most scientists, the vast majority agree that human beings are negatively affecting climate change.
Yeah.
The vast majority.
Yeah, I just don't think so.
The problem is with climate change is that, for sure, there has been ups and downs throughout the history of this planet. They're observable. They follow them in. I mean, it was one of the subjects that I had earlier today with Dr. Robert Schoch. In 2014, the vast majority, 87% of scientists, said that human activity is driving global warming, yet only half the American public ascribe to that view. So,
well, what website is
87%, and this is
Scientific American.
Yeah.
Yeah, .com though, like cause that means it's making money. I don't trust that. If it was a .org, I would probably take that. But this is just a random website, and I don't trust.
Scientific American is not necessarily a random website.
I don't believe this like at all. Just so you know.
You don't believe it like at all?
I genuinely don't believe it. I know you do, but I genuinely don't believe it, right?
And so what they're doing is
studying. But do you remember all of the stories that came out about the scientists that said that when they tried to present their evidence to show, like they were basically just getting shut down at every corner? You can pull that up too. Like scientists who look up the opposite, right? Instead of looking for what you're searching for, looking for what you're not looking for.
I didn't search for it. That's what I found when I searched it.
Sorry.
Yeah,
but yeah. Look up.
But this is my question. Yeah. Why are you so sure? This is
because what you just said. Because what you just said.
This is an extremely complicated subject.
And it is. I said I am not so sure that I would die on the hill for it. Mm-hmm. My opinion right now, and is just that it was a means. Because forget the fact of whether you believe global warming is real. Let's say it's 100% real. Let's say we know for a fact it's real. Is there a way?
Well, let's be clear.
Yeah.
Global warming, climate change is definitely real. It's happening.
Well,
the question is why has it happened? Yes, it has always happened.
So what is the climate change? Yes, the climate changes. It was different weather yesterday than it was today. The climate is forever changing. Like that's the problem, is that people are making it seem like that's something weird.
No, that's not. You're misrepresenting the issue. The issue is people think that human beings are exacerbating climate change to the point where there's a tipping point. We cross over that tipping point. We're going to deal with huge problems that could be corrected if we act now and put a lot of funding into climate control. The question to you is, if you want to step outside of the scientific consensus, which is vast and involves 10,306 scientists, and just say, I don't believe in it, even if you're right, you don't have enough information to say that.
Right. No, but that's what I said. This is the whole
point. But you're saying you don't believe it.
I don't. Yeah, I would have to have someone sit down and convince me that it was real. I personally don't believe it. That's okay.
But why?
It's good to start at a place of not believing something.
No, it's not.
You think you should start with believing everything.
No, it's not believe either or. Not believe yes, not believe no.
Yeah.
But don't say you don't believe.
Yeah.
Learn about it.
Yeah.
learn about it and then have an opinion. But you're stating this opinion without having any real understanding of what climate science is.
But that's exactly what an opinion is. I'm not going, like I said, if you said that, Candace, you went on to 10,000 college campuses and you said that global warming wasn't real, then we'd have a problem.
What they're saying is we are negatively impacting our own environment, and we're doing it because we have poor technology and we use coal and fossil fuels and emissions, and we're raising our CO2 levels. And this is based on data. And this is something that you can look at. You could look at the data and follow where they're getting this information from, and follow how they're making these conclusions, and follow the vast majority of these brilliant people who study this shit their whole life.
Yeah, exactly. And if I was a person that was putting forth policy on climate change, or if I was a person that put out my opinion publicly on climate change, I would do all of that. I'm just not. But this is what I hate. This is what I hate. Because then it's like, Candace, you have to have a formed opinion on everything.
No, you don't have to have a formed opinion on everything. What you do have to have is the ability to know when you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
But I just said that. I said that to you the entire time.
I said this would.
I said I don't believe it. And then you asked me, and I said this wouldn't be the hill I chose to die on because I don't.
But why even say you don't believe in it?
Because I just personally, if you.
How about not have a belief in?
I think it would be the same if I said to you, like, do you believe in God, right?
No, I would say I don't know.
You would say so. That's this. I feel like this is sort of like linguistics, though.
No, I would say I don't know.
Okay.
I always say I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm agnostic.
Most people say like I believe it or I don't, right? So it's like if you say.
I think a lot of people say they don't know.
Okay, I think believe is definitely a word that's associated with God, but
right.
So
but a lot of people say that they don't know.
But if you say I don't believe in God, and then somebody starts saying, "Oh, you need to form it," it's like I just don't believe in it.
No, you don't, because God is not scientific data.
Right.
There's a big difference between measuring the CO2 levels in the atmosphere and deciding whether or not there's an afterlife.
Right. I'm sorry that I just don't believe. I don't believe in global warming. I'm happy to.
You're allowed to not believe in it.
That's all I've been trying to say. Is I don't believe in it. But I have not.
You're an influencer.
And
you're a very bright person.
But if somebody had asked me, like at a place where I'm influencing on a college campus, what's your opinion? I would say I have none.
We'll continue with the video in a few moments, but first, today's video is sponsored by our friends at Hat Hub. You can get all of your hats at hathub.com. They offer a variety of hat styles with a huge range of different hat designs and collections. Enter code ALWAYSVIRAL, one word, at checkout for 10% off your next order. We at Always Viral shop Hat Hub for all of our hats. I have at least 11 of their classic dad hats and Richardson 112 trucker hats. Each hat fits great and was shipped extremely fast. Again, you can get 10% off your order at hathub.com when you use code ALWAYSVIRAL, one word, at checkout. Go check them out. Great company with great customer service and an awesome collection of hat styles and designs. Their link will be in this video description. Plus, you shopping with Hat Hub also helps us out here at Always Viral, so we greatly appreciate your support for Hat Hub and us.
Jesus Christ, you're so defensive. It's like, do you work for the organization?
No, I don't. But you're putting.
I'm saying
you're using the Washington Post.
No, this isn't the Washington Post.
Well, what is it?
This is
the
NBC.
Independent. Oh, the NBC. Okay, NBC.
Okay, so everything is bad. Look, man, I'm just reading what's in front of me.
I know, and I'm just.
But you're so emotional about this. It's ridiculous.
To talk about building a tower in Moscow is not illegal, or to have business. And what did he lie about specifically?
Well, there's a lot.
Like what?
I mean, we could pull it up. Let's find out all the things.
What, do you got to go to salon.com?
No, you can go to a million different websites.
Well, I know.
Okay,
but which ones are telling the we just established
website?
that the fucking social media tilts left. So
yes, social media does. We're not talking about pulling up social media pages.
What are you pulling up?
I don't know.
Washington Post.
I'm not a Trump scholar. I don't have at my disposal all the different times that he lied, but it's a lot.
So what do you think is going to happen to him? You think they'll impeach him? You mean?
No.
Or he'll resign, or what?
I don't know. Look, I'm not claiming to be any sort of an expert in legal proceedings. I have no idea.
Me either. That's why I quoted Dershowitz.
Yeah, I think. Well, isn't Dershowitz working with Trump?
No. Giuliani is.
Oh, that's right.
Dershowitz is I always go to Dershowitz because he's a fucking lib.
Trump averaged 15 inaccuracies and mistruths a day in 2018, almost triple the rate from a year before.
Okay.
But hold on a second.
What's the Independent?
Inaccuracies and mistruths. It's a European paper.
Yeah.
But isn't that a little odd? 15 a day?
No, because I don't know who's making that claim. I don't know the exact 15 inaccuracies.
You doubt that it's true? You think that's all a lie? That he just made up the fact that he lies a lot?
Lies about what? First of all, what's the definition of a lie?
I don't know. Let's see. It says Washington Post, who they hate, who
hates
Jeff Bezos,
Trump. Who absolutely
said
hates
the president made
But that's my point.
1,989 such claims in 2018. By the last day of 2018,
yeah, you're going to the Washington Post. That's my point.
But let's see what it says. I mean, they can't lie. The total figure has risen to 7,600. So you think they just made up all these lies?
Of course, not all of them, I'm sure. But you could go back with Hillary and fucking count. You could go to Fox News and pull up an article of how many times Hillary was inaccurate.
Do you know what a whataboutism is?
A whataboutism?
Yeah, when someone talks about something and instead of refuting it with facts, they go, "Yeah, well, what about Hillary? What about Bill? Bill did it too. What about this? What about that?"
You're gonna tell me
whataboutism.
That's what I just committed.
That was a whataboutism. Because you were saying that Hillary lied.
But
we both agree.
But you're making my point. You're going to the Washington Post.
Okay, well, that's just Jamie pulled up the Independent.
No, we could go anywhere.
But hold on a second.
Yeah.
Look, I'm with you. I think Hillary's a liar. I think she deleted 30,000 emails. I think it's criminal. I think the Clinton Foundation's a fucking fully illegal organization. I think they rigged the DNC. I think they rigged the primaries against Bernie. I'm with you. I'm not a supporter.
No, I'm not saying you are, but when's the last time somebody made a statement like that and said this many inaccuracies when Bill Clinton was in office? Or,
I don't think he lied as much.
Or Hillary,
or whatever. I'm sure there was some inaccuracies. But first of all, when Bill Clinton was in office, they weren't.
Did they count Obama's?
I don't know, but that's a whataboutism. You know what I'm saying? We're just talking about Trump. You were saying that Trump doesn't lie. And they're saying he lies
I'm not saying he doesn't lie. I'm just, first of all.
Well, you said, what does he lie about?
No, well, first of all, I like to know the definition of a lie. If he misstates something.
Do you think he does it accidentally?
I'm sure sometimes when you're talking that much.
Okay, so if he lies 1,900 times
give me an example of a blatant. Yeah, that's fucking. It's Washington Post. It's horseshit.
I don't know.
I do.
You think
I
it's
watch
all
it all.
lies? The
Not
Washington Post
all
is
of
all
it.
lies.
He's a bullshitter for sure.
Yes.
But
So
to
that
take him, Joe, would you argue that they haven't been trying to take him down since he came down that fucking escalator? How about the deep state? How about the fucking dossier? Why is it anybody not being?
What does that mean?
The dossier.
What dossier?
The fake dossier, Christopher Steele, that they used to get the FISA application.
Explain to people what you're talking about.
I just did. They know what I'm talking about.
No. They don't. They don't, because I don't know. What do you mean?
The dossier. The fake dossier. Remember they said
Do you know what he's talking about?
They had, yes. They had, you have to know this, so you're being willfully ignorant.
No, I don't know. Nick, I don't know.
Okay, I'm explaining.
But hold on a second. Do you know?
I've heard, these are terms I've heard, yes, and this stuff.
But you don't know the full extent of the story.
Yeah, well, this is what I'm talking about. This is as big a story as anything Trump has done.
What is the story?
The Steele dossier that Hillary used. You had to get a application from the FISA courts. And they used DNC opposition. Christopher Steele, who's a British guy, had connections in Russia. Remember when they said Trump was at a hotel and watching girls peeing on each other?
Yes.
That was all in the Steele dossier. Christopher Steele is his name. They used that in their application to get a FISA warrant to spy on Trump during his campaign. That's fact. That's not me being a right-winger. That is fact.
Okay.
So, but the fact that you don't know that.
No, I remember that now.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about.
But
that's as big a story as Trump, lying about the number of people at his inauguration. I want to know I want to know a lie from Trump that's equal in power as like when Obama said lied about health care, that you could keep your health care and all that. Give me an example of Trump with that big of a lie.
Well, listen, I told you.
He does lie. I'm not saying he doesn't. All presidents lie. All politicians lie. I'm just saying they start to count it when Trump took over. They started keeping,
because
keeping
it's so
statistics.
Egregious.
Well, like what? Give me an example.
Look, we just showed you all the numbers that the Washington Post
provided. From the Washington Post.
So if I give you another example, you're going to say, oh, that's from this or that's from that.
If you go to salon.com.
Well, we won't go to salon.com.
All right. Well, go to, I don't know what you go to.
We've gotten more done than any other administration, okay? This is a lie, so true, blah, blah, blah.
See, now, if somebody says that's a lie...
Well, let's see what it says. Jamie, go back to it. What are you doing?
But who's saying that's a lie?
Let's see. Let's see. Let's see what it says. Jesus Christ, you're so defensive. It's like, do you work for the organization?
No, I don't, but you're putting...
I'm saying
you're using the Washington Post.
No, this isn't the Washington Post.
Well, what is it?
This is NBC.
The Independent. Oh, the NBC. Okay, NBC.
Okay, so everything is bad. Look, man, I'm just reading what's in front of me.
I know, and I'm just...
You're so emotional about this. It's ridiculous.
I have 4 cups of coffee in me,
We should have had 2.
Huh? Oh, please.
Look at you.
I'm right.
So, I don't know you're right. That's what we're talking about.
Are you going to tell me you don't know that the mainstream media hates Trump?
They do.
You gonna?
I do.
Well, then
I agree.
why would you put your fucking?
Because I want to know whether or not they are saying what is fact. Stop doing that, Jamie. Go back to where it was.
You can't go.
Says Trump later said that he intended the UN moment to garner a laugh, but has repeated this claim seriously since. Okay, so he says that my administration has accomplished more than almost any administration in the history of the country. So this is just
that's an exaggeration.
Him being a bullshitter,
that's
right?
hyperbole,
right? And people were laughing when he said that,
right.
and so he was saying that he meant to say it as a laugh.
Okay,
there are varying measures of success. But it's not true that his administration has been more successful than any other administration in history. When it comes to legislation, Trump has signed plenty of bills in his first 2 years as president, but Barack Obama in his first 2 years has signed significantly more. Okay, this is just one thing. I mean, I'm sure there's many, many other things that you could keep going over and over again. I'm with you.
I'm not saying he's not a bullshitter, but I'm just saying all of a sudden they keep score when Trump. He's no more of a liar than
to keep score because he lies so much.
Well, who was keeping score when fucking Hillary was Secretary of State?
Well, it's a different
senator
thing when
in Washington,
Secretary of State, and I don't know how much she lied as opposed to how much he lied.
Her lies are a lot bigger. There's about her fucking server and about the Steele dossier. That is huge. That is getting undercovered like nobody's been. That dwarfs Watergate. When they unmasked General Flynn, that dwarfs Watergate.
That's an interesting conversation.
People are so stupid with their analogies. That would be the same if there was one black guy and everybody's like, let's go get him. How the fuck is that the same? How the fuck is that the same? Why is everybody so goddamn crazy?
Let's listen to the rest of what she has to say.
The Women's Report, and then the club owner issued a statement, and I find this very interesting, especially when talking about it from a comics lens. And he said that Daniel Tosh got on stage and said, what would you guys like to talk about? Now that opens a conversation with your audience.
We already
said something. So it's not
quite the same thing as being heckled.
Being heckled for a joke you told. Yes. Where was the joke?
Wasn't it like the equivalent of if there was one black guy in the room and he had said, wouldn't it be funny if everybody just lynched that guy right now? Because it's not so much a joke as it is an attack on that person because he was obviously angry at that person.
Hold on, stop that. You know how stupid that is? Because that's ridiculous, because it's not like she was the only woman in a room full of men. That's so dumb. People are so stupid with their analogies. That would be the same if there was one black guy and everybody's like, let's go get him. How the fuck is that the same? How the fuck is that the same? Why is everybody so goddamn crazy? And why do so many people want to cry victim when they're just stupid? This is not a victim issue. This is a stupid person issue.
I mean, I think it comes down to she disagreed with him. We disagree on how she handled it. I disagree with you. You disagree with me. But it's like,
what do you disagree with me?
Oh, just about the whole rape thing. The thing you've been yelling at me about for 45 minutes.
Disagree with what? You've never disagreed.
Well, the fact that I'm not...
you honestly never have, because I've told you that I don't think that he contributes to raping people, and you're saying that you didn't say that.
I do not think he contributes to raping people.
But you're saying that he contributes to rape culture, and I'm saying, what the fuck is that then? I'm not saying that rape is good. It's terrible.
Well,
it's a terrible thing. But murder's worse, man. And you could joke about murder all day. You could joke about murdering people all day, and no one in the audience who's lost a friend to murder should be allowed to step in and go, I've lost a friend to murder. Stop it with your murder jokes.
Right.
Yeah, but I don't know if you would, again, lash out and attack that person as much. If that person was fucking...
You would if they heckled. You would if you were telling a joke about murder. Someone said, talk about murder. And you go, nothing's funny about murder. What's funny about murder? The bullet killing someone, an arrow, a machete. And someone goes, actually, murder's never funny.
Right.
And you go, wouldn't it be funny if somebody just murdered him?
But again, man,
where would you stand on that?
There's not this
Where would you stand on that?
history.
Where would you stand on that? If somebody wrote a blog and the blog was written by a fat man, a dumb man that you don't want his love, and he believes in the Confederate flag, and what if he wrote a blog about that? Would you stand up for him? Because it's the same fucking issue.
It's not the same issue.
It is the same issue.
Not.
It certainly is.
Because murder is getting fucking reported. There's not a stigma about murder. The murderer or the family of the family of the person who's murdered doesn't have to defend the fucking victim. The victim isn't fucking put on trial. Sometimes they are, obviously.
Well, listen, man, you are creating a lot of straw men here. This is not murder is worse, and you're saying that
situation happened and it was a murder joke, that would be okay. That's what you're saying. And I say that's crazy.
Here's what I'm saying, because I think we're talking in circles.
No, because we're talking about comedy, man. We're not talking about reality. That's my point. You know that if someone says, wouldn't it be funny if somebody just murdered him? You know that that's worse than saying, wouldn't it be funny if someone just raped him?
That's not worse.
It is worse. Murder's worse.
Murder's way worse than rape.
Murder is worse than rape, man.
I don't think we can have this conversation.
You're crazy. You would rather be murdered than raped?
What's that?
You would rather be murdered than raped?
Than raped?
Yes. You would rather be murdered than raped.
I would rather... If someone is going to have to live with rape, a rape that none of us will have to understand.
You're saying murder's worse than rape.
None of us understand what these fucking girls are going through.
I'm not talking about that, man. I'm talking about is murder worse than rape? I say it is.
For me?
Yes.
Yeah, of course. I would rather...
And how about for every other fucking human being that's ever lived? Murder's worse than rape.
We don't fucking know what they're going through. We don't. And if
Jamie, you're talking nonsense. You keep bringing up feelings.
The first fucking
you keep going to weird shit and victimization.
The first hour of the show was all about how, we have to have more empathy for each other. But we're screaming about how fucking rape victims just need to take a psychedelic drug and not go to a fucking comedy club.
We're comparing murder to rape. That's what we're doing. We're not doing all these other things you're trying to introduce into the... We're not doing that. We're comparing murder to rape. And we're saying that murder is worse than rape. You kill people, they cease to exist, they die. Sure. If someone has sex with you against your will, it's a horrible, horrible thing that should hurt you. It's going to be a bad thing, but it's not as bad as murder, period.
But the reason that it's more stigmatized, the reason that more people...
It's not stigmatized more than murder, man. If you found out that a guy raped someone, you go, oh, what an asshole. If you found out a guy murdered someone, that's a different fucking feeling.
I see, that's where I disagree.
I want the guy who murdered people, I want the guy who murdered people killed, immediately removed from society. I want the guy who raped someone, I want to find out what the fuck went wrong that he dehumanized people to the point where his sexual needs or power needs or whatever the fuck like that supersedes his need to complement his fellow humans, to be a part of humanity and culture. What went wrong with this guy? I want to find out if he was raped by his parents. We can learn something about that guy.
But we can't with murder.
I think a lot of times with murder, it's just people have access to things and they have impulses and they do terrible things. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons for murder. There's a million different reasons for murder. There's only a couple different reasons for rape. What evidence? You haven't given me shit.
I've given you the argument.
What argument?
You're continuing. I'm saying, fine. Let's say there's no causation. Let's say that wasn't backed up well enough. Let's give you that argument.
Okay. What's this, Jamie?
And
there's also some evidence that medical marijuana laws may contribute to decreasing traffic fatalities. What's your bias?
Well, my bias, like you said, I'm right wing. I'm conservative.
If you had to, if you go, God damn it, maybe I went too far down this road. If I could just relax one aspect of my dialogue, what would it be? Maybe it would be my pipe smoking.
Your pipe smoking? I probably wouldn't talk about the marijuana issue. I wouldn't care, because here's the thing, I don't care about it.
One way or the other?
But my issue with it is when, and we saw this in Montreal, I talked about it when people lie about it and they're dishonest with their voting constituency.
Like how so?
Well, saying, it's medicine for A, B, C, or D. It may be medicine for A, but not for B, C, or D.
Well, what are the B, C's, and D's? What are the things that's not medicine
an example.
for?
Well, you're asking me what I wouldn't talk about, and asking me to defend it. My point is, I don't really care about it.
But what are the B, C's, and D? What you said
it cures cancer.
Well, there has been shown...
It helps with cancer about as much as turmeric and ginger. Those things help with cancer.
Anti-inflammatory things.
Yeah, I know, but it's not a prescription.
But CBD has been shown to have tremendous benefits for cancer and non-psychoactive.
Yeah, and certainly with seizures. I have zero problem with CBD being legalized. But my issue is
cannabis.
I'll have to, I feel the need to call people out in bullshit when they say, well, the reason it's not is because of big pharmaceutical companies. I go, hold on a second. There are 7 patents on chemical compounds for marijuana right now.
Right.
The people who stand to make the most out of marijuana legalization are pharmaceutical companies. That's why they make...
That's not true.
Well, it is. If you look at the biggest supplement companies, it's owned by the same pharmaceutical companies.
But you can't patent
a
plant.
Yes, you can. They patented seven at
you
least.
You can patent strains that are GMOs.
No. 7 active chemical compounds in pot that have been patented as drugs. They've gone through the process.
Yeah,
There's
but
one
you
that's
can't
really
patent
efficient.
It to the point where you can't grow pot. How would you stop someone if pot's legal? If pot's legal, how would anyone? And if that's the truth, then that's a real problem.
If pot is recognized as a medicine, right? If pot is recognized, there is no one who would stand to gain more than pharmaceutical companies by providing it as medicine.
That's not necessarily true if people are allowed to grow it themselves.
Maybe it's not necessarily true. I'll give you that. But I also think it's not necessarily true that the reason people can't smoke up is because Big Pharma is sitting somewhere, Martin Shkreli going, oh, let's make pot illegal.
Well, not that
That's
guy.
my only point.
But there are absolutely people who have lobbied, as we talked about how the prison guard union has lobbied to keep marijuana illegal. There's absolutely pharmaceutical companies have done the same thing. It was revealed in the WikiLeaks memos.
See, this is where I was saying
hold on, don't interrupt me, you fuck. Where Hillary Clinton said that she's against marijuana in every sense of the word, right? You remember those WikiLeaks papers that came out?
Yeah.
Is he? He said he would leave it up to the states.
Yeah.
That's actually a constitutional approach.
But he wants to beef up the war on drugs.
You know why? I bet someone slipped him a pot cookie once and he looked at his hair in the mirror. And
no, he's a teetotaler. He doesn't even drink.
What the fuck?
Sold vodka, doesn't drink, Donald Trump. It's crazy.
Yeah. Ever?
No, he says he claims he's never had a
Colorado
drop.
topped $1 billion in legal marijuana sales in 2016.
Good.
Holla.
Yeah.
Holla at Colorado.
Yeah. But another thing that we just wrote about, and again, people get mad with the weed
Economics.
issue. Well, no. Traffic fatalities regarding marijuana have skyrocketed.
Google that because that's nonsense.
No, we wrote about it at loudandbetter.com.
Drunk driving arrests have dropped. What do you mean you've... First of all...
Yeah, we wrote about what the sources are, the original studies.
Just because someone gets in an accident and they're high... hold on, stop.
No, hold on a second.
You interrupt way too much. You need to stop.
You talk in paragraphs.
Hold on a second. No. I don't talk in paragraphs. I make full points. If people are high a lot and the same amount of fatalities exist, but the people that get checked once they get into these accidents happen to be high, it does not necessarily mean that marijuana caused those fatalities. It could be that you have an increased incidence of people doing marijuana and altercations that could not have been avoided.
It could be.
It could be.
But the statistical change is measurable.
Well, what is it?
From pre and post. Okay, I'll tell you what. I'll give you that.
What are you giving me?
Let's say you're correct.
But here's the thing.
So let's say you're correct.
Physiologically, it doesn't have an effect on motor skills the way alcohol does, or it doesn't slow down your response time.
Well, I know that we've had several doctors on the show, two of whom had differing opinions on that.
They don't have to be right.
They don't have to be right.
Opinions of it. Do they smoke marijuana themselves? Do they know what it's like?
Now we're getting to this whole
have they studied all the different... CBS News caught blatantly distorting cannabis studies says legal pot doubles fatal car crashes.
This comes from Mint Press News. So again, we can go into questioning sources all day long if you have someone else bringing up sources.
You don't think this is a good source? You think
maybe
they're lying?
It is. Maybe it is. Let's say you're right.
Crowder, but
let's say you're right. Well, a lot of Crowder, we sourced that to something else.
I know, and
you guys are so defensive on one issue, and you said, "What's the issue you don't care about?"
I have your sources right here. I've looked them up. There's people online also sourcing them. They are skewed. You're skewing them to make
and
your
so is the
case.
Washington Post study that you skewed.
But you're not the Washington Post. You're supposed to be the answer to the Washington Post.
I'm not the answer to the Washington Post.
Don't say that someone's evil, so I'm evil too.
Well, you just said that.
Is that what you're saying?
That's the argument that you just made.
No, I didn't make that argument.
You
just said, come on, man.
You just made that argument. And all of a sudden, when someone mentions pot, you put on the ideologue hat where your worldview is through the lens of weed.
No, dude.
And you get upset with anyone having a different opinion.
Bullshit. It has nothing to do with weed.
Yeah, but you haven't made an argument.
I haven't made an argument. You said that the fatalities increased. We showed you what happened in Colorado.
What have you shown me?
We showed you the statistics that show that marijuana and traffic violations correlates to less
may not be causal
accidents.
Right? Your argument is it may not be caused.
Okay, so what else is causing the dropped number? And why can't
what's
you
causing
show...
the increase in number?
What increase? This fake increase
from
that
fake,
you're bringing up?
fake news?
It's not real. It's not real. Colorado shows it's not real. So where is it real?
Well, this comes from his AAA study that was AAA and Trusted Safety Council.
AAA is owned by the Bilderberg Group, bro.
Oh, God.
You don't even know this.
So now we're going to go to Weed Cures Cancer and people having meetings with ram's heads.
You've got one article that says one thing and one article from Colorado that says there's been a decrease in traffic fatalities.
Right.
You're not willing to recognize that.
I just said, let's give that to you. Because this entire conversation started with you saying, what issue would you change your mind on?
No,
and I said,
it started...
probably pot. Because here's what I think.
This argument started with you saying that it causes more fatalities in traffic violations.
That's not true. That's not true. You said, which issue do you not care about?
I
said
that?
pot.
Didn't
and then
you
you
say
said
it causes
why?
more traffic fatalities?
What's your opinion on pot? And I said, I really don't care if people want to smoke pot. I think it's a state issue. I honestly don't care. I've changed my mind where as a kid I thought it was harmful. I don't think it's harmful anymore.
But didn't you say that it causes more traffic fatalities?
Then you said, well, let's expand on this. What issue do you have with pot? I said, I don't like the dishonesty where people just say it cures cancer, it'll end the war on drugs, it's completely harmless, and I have some arguments that it's not
harmless?
entirely. No, it's not entirily harmless.
Well,
it's not without consequences.
Well, consequences based on what?
And I've given you so much leeway there on that one.
How have you? How have you?
It literally started from me saying I probably couldn't care less about this out of all the other issues that we discuss. And you lasered in on that and go, where do we disagree on this?
Because
you're looking for an argument.
No, because it's a huge blind spot.
No, it's not a huge blind spot.
It's definitely
Do you think I'm working for the Bilderbergs out there trying to ban pot?
That. If you say that marijuana is in some way or another a dangerous thing, yes. I can tell you that it's not.
No, I didn't say a dangerous thing.
Well,
it's not without consequences.
What are the consequences?
Okay, what do you believe marijuana does, for example? Well, no, I'm not going to get baited into this because you're going to get me into, you're trying to force me to say that I don't think pot cures cancer and there's a big farm. No, listen, smoke pot.
No, that's not.
I will ask this.
I'm trying to say, what are the consequences of it?
You come on my show. I would love to and have a discussion about it in real time. I think so. Well, last time on the show, you said you do the show
right now. You're in front of me right now. Why do I have to come on your?
Because we're not having a conversation, you and I, right now.
We would definitely
have
a conversation for hours. Oh, that's not good to read sources.
Not fair. It's not fair to have two people.
What's fair?
Just like before you said, you think if Amy,
should we be in a room with no internet?
You think if Amy and I ganged up on you, think you would have done well in that argument? Come on, man.
Because I want to find out how you feel, how you think. I want to see if you get defensive.
But for some reason, you said you think if her and I were together, you think you would have done well on that.
Yeah, because I want to see if you get defensive.
Yeah. But
do you ever fuck with somebody in a conversation?
Why wouldn't you
ever fuck with somebody? You do that, right?
No, but you've made it all about the pot issue.
No, that had nothing to do with pot. The Amy Schumer thing had nothing to do with pot.
You've gotten into this pot issue because of an issue where you think there's an argument.
You just brought up.
And it's the one area that you're super informed and interested in.
You're adorable.
And that's the same thing as saying you're not a real comedian.
No, you're adorable.
You've never debated someone on an open territory without someone else to back up your argument. It's never happened.
This is not a backup when someone pulls up information. Let me tell you something. One thing that Jamie does is he pulls up evidence to the contrary. If I was wrong, he would stick it right in my face and we would laugh about it. And that's what he does.
Yeah, but I don't have someone to pull up evidence to the contrary. And I've given it to you.
What evidence? You haven't given me shit.
I've given you the argument.
What argument?
And you're continuing. I'm saying, fine, let's say there's no causation. Let's say that wasn't backed up well enough. Let's give you that argument.
Okay. What's this, Jamie?
And
there's also some evidence that medical marijuana laws may contribute to decreasing traffic fatalities.
This is what part of the show is me doing this, though. If we don't do that,
this is what we always do. It's just talking about facts. Listen to this.
You're obsessed.
Hold, please. There are also some evidence that medical. That doesn't make any sense. There are also some evidence. That's not there's also. Okay, I'm wrong. That medical marijuana laws may contribute to decreasing traffic fatalities. One study published in the Journal of Law and Economics in 2013 reviewed traffic fatalities in the 19 states that had passed medical marijuana laws by 2010 and found that legalization is associated with an 8 to 11% decrease in traffic fatalities for the year after the laws took effect. The researchers from the University of Colorado, Denver, and elsewhere also found the decrease is more significant for alcohol-related fatalities at 13.2%.
Can I ask a question?
Pretty interesting.
Can I ask a question?
Please do.
Why is that study from 2010 considered completely valid to you and the study from AAA in 2014 considered completely invalid?
Because AAA's got a fucking biased interest.
There you go.
Because
there you go.
They're
chemtrails
a big
bias.
Company.
People can have different opinions.
In charge. Well, what are they basing it on?
So your argument is this is the only valid study because AAA is biased.
But this is a study.
It's
Why
a study.
Are you ignoring? Do you think that's right, or do you think they're lying?
I think it could be right. I think it could be right.
So if they're right, if that study's right, then you were wrong, right?
If that study's right,
then you were wrong, right?
I could be wrong.
You were wrong, right? When you were just spouting it out. So we proved that in Colorado you were wrong.
You didn't prove.
And if that study is true, well,
you didn't prove. You said here's what you do. If
let's pull that up again. Figure out what caused the Colorado study.
And then you say interruption. I asked one question, and then you get a paragraph.
You'd like doing this, don't you,
Joe? I literally said I'll give it to you. You win the argument, and you bring up another thing about pot.
Well, it's because you don't really give up. You reluctantly give up.
I said I'll give it to you. You're right. Let's assume I'm wrong.
You're definitely wrong.
Let's assume I'm wrong.
Okay, so what else would be the problem with marijuana if it wasn't traffic fatalities?
I don't
zero,
even
right?
No, not zero.
What, zero?
But I don't want to spend the entire day talking about pot.
Well, come on, man. We're talking about real issues. What would be the other problems if it wasn't for traffic fatalities?
Before you go, oh, man, just loosen up. Let's talk about life in jiu-jitsu. Then you get in one thing.
I didn't say jiu-jitsu. I said let's talk.
You're obsessed.
I just want to get you away from your left versus right talking points because I'm neither.
Because people with convictions, the left-right paradigm.
Bertrand Russell
the left-right paradigm. I'm a centrist.
I kind of am.
Joe, Joe, here's the thing, and I started off and I still mean the complimentary things I said, but you can't bring people on and call them pussy and dumb
Come
fuck
on, bro. We're
and
joking
bias,
around. I can't.
and then continue going back to an issue, and with someone who agrees with you entirely, and act as though, well, now you're defensive. Well, of course I'm defensive.
Why do you have to give them hormones to make them more of a girl?
Because I'm sorry. Can you expand on the question?
We just scratched upon the idea of kids transitioning at a very early age. I mean, there's been more scientific evidence that points that if kids don't do that, then when they wanted to be trans at an early age, they just become gay men, and that there's nothing wrong with that either. There's no reason to give kids hormones, and there's no reason to decide before a person's frontal lobe is completely fully developed, which doesn't even take place till like 25. People don't know who they are. A 7-year-old, you won't even. People don't even give their 7-year-old phones. You don't let them vote. You're going to let them decide what sex they're going to be for the rest of their life.
The research that I've seen, and again, I'm not an expert on this, and you know, I'd love to. This is a conversation. This is something I'd love to talk about on our show, and I'd specifically love, you know, this is the kind of topic where I really want to make sure that I know the research and that I'm, you know, also speaking to trans folks, you know, in this conversation. But so to touch on just what I've, you know, my own experience and the research I've seen. The research I've seen is that trans kids from a young age, they are incredibly consistent in when they're expressing their gender identity.
Okay, but that's a big generalization. You're talking about a lot of human beings.
Yeah, but
that fits this narrative by saying they're incredibly consistent. But like, if you polled these people, like, what are you talking about? Like, if you,
I mean, that's I don't have the research in front of me that I saw, so I can't like go into the details on it. But you know, my child from a very young age consistently like said, I am a girl, like, and has never contradicted themselves, never changed their mind. And so the humane thing and the thing that he felt was good to do as a parent was to like embrace that choice on his child's part, right?
Embrace that choice, meaning hormonally.
I shouldn't even phrase it as a choice, like embrace that identity.
But it is a choice, right? I mean, if you're choosing to add hormones to a child's body, that's a choice.
It's a choice blockers. It's a choice on the part of the parent. It's not a choice on the part of the child to like in the same way that being gay isn't a choice. Yeah.
Okay, but if that's who they are, if they think that they're a girl, why do you have to give them hormones to make them more of a girl?
Because. I'm sorry, can you expand on the question?
It's a simple question. If you say that the child thinks it's a girl, so you're going to give the child hormones.
Mm-hmm.
If the child thinks it's a girl, let it be a girl. Like, you don't have, why are you adding hormones? If you're shooting hormones into a child and you're affecting the child's development, you're saying that's not a choice. That's nonsense. Of course it's a choice. You're choosing to chemically change this child's body. You're choosing to inject things into this child's body on a regular basis that are going to radically affect the physical development of their body.
Yeah.
And you're saying that this isn't a choice. Well, it's definitely a choice to do that.
So what trans people express, and again, I'm not an expert. This is from me talking to my trans friends and you know, seeing what other trans folks say, is that the, you know, experience of being trans and not receiving hormones, right, and not having the body that you identify with, the feeling of dysphoria, right, is extremely like painful and is a condition unto itself, right, and the feeling of not belonging with the body that you have, of that mismatch, right, that seems to be in the broad variety of humanity, the way that some people are born, right, where their inner self, right, the self that they are, they're like, I am a, you know, they're not thinking they are a woman. They're like, this is the person that I am. Doesn't match the body that they have, right? And that gives them extreme distress, right? And that leads to, you know, suicide. That leads to, other damaging behaviors, right? And the best treatment for that we know exists is to, do gender confirmation via hormones. And
you know that doesn't affect the suicide rate. The suicide rate for trans people is very high, post-op and pre-op. Really doesn't get affected by whether or not you treat them.
Well, the operation,
the question could be,
is
why is that? Is that because they're not accepted by society and we're not more loving? Could it be underlying issues that are causing them to feel this way in the first place? Like, what is it? We don't know, and I'm sure it varies widely.
And I'm not going to argue with those folks.
I wouldn't argue with those folks either, but you have to address the fact that there are people that have gone through transition surgery and said, I wish to God that I never did this. There's a lot of those people too. So if you're looking for anecdotal evidence and you want to be objective, you kind of have to look at both sides of it.
I'm sure we can find the anecdotes. I'm very curious, and this is what I'd go consult my friend or my recent interview subject, Brent Tannehill's work on this to see how many are in each group, right? And which sets of these folks are the outliers. I think the folks that you're talking about are probably the outliers, but I can't, confirm that.
All surgeries have potential costs. However, according to a Swedish study of 324 patients, 41% of whom were born female, surgery was associated with considerably higher risk for mortality, suicidal behavior, and psychiatric morbidity than the general population. So that's people who got the surgery.
I am curious. Wait, 3.41% of them. I mean, the devil of this is in the details, right? Because how much is the higher risk? What does it mean? 3.1% of the who were born female.
Well, some of them were born female, and the other ones were born male. The males that transitioned to females is what it's saying. It's only saying a small percentage of them were born female that transitioned to male, but the larger percentage was males who transitioned to female, and that the surgery that they received was associated with considerably higher risks for mortality, suicidal behavior, and psychiatric morbidity than the general population.
Sure.
So that's not healing them. That's saying that having that surgery is associated with higher risks of mortality, suicidal behavior, and psychiatric morbidity.
But it also says above, following surgery, patients report lower gender dysphoria and improved sexual relationships. Right,
before they kill themselves, everything's awesome.
Well, this isn't saying that people are killing themselves.
You're looking for something that confirms a previously established opinion that you have.
And as are you. I mean, we're looking at this, and we should be.
Bullshit. Comes from a Judeo-Christian tradition.
Bullshit.
But when you say you believe in what? The Bible?
Well, I believe in Catholicism. I'm a Catholic, I think.
So you believe that it's a good idea to have confession,
yeah.
And you have a dude who never has sex ever, listening to fuck stories whispered through a hole in the wall, and he absolves
this is like
you.
Don't cut baby dicks,
For confession is.
For a dreary nitpicker, you
have
quite
a
the turn of phrase.
dressed like a wizard, sitting on a golden throne.
All right, we're done.
And you have to call him Father. That all makes sense to you?
Do you know what?
I went to Catholic school, by the way.
Do you know what? This world could do with a bit more pomp and circumstance, a little bit more drama, and a little bit
Says the
more...
man who supports the fucking matriarchy.
Do you know what this world could do with a little bit more of that? I mean, just look at the dreary hell of the atheist art scene. Look at the sum total
the
of
atheist art scene.
Like contribution to
Who
human.
the fuck is searching the atheist art scene?
No, but I mean, what I mean is,
you want to look at the atheist art scene. Look at almost all the good movies ever made. Look at almost all the great albums ever made. Look at almost all the great comedians that have ever told jokes ever.
You can't compare Hollywood,
That's the atheist
Hollywood
art
to
scene.
St. Peter's Basilica.
No.
Or Hollywood to the Blue Mosque,
for
that
comics.
matter.
Like, if you
I don't
line
think
them
comedians
up,
contribute to the sum total of
99.999%.
human civilization and knowledge in the way that
art scene,
in the way that
art scene.
Michelangelo did.
Painters.
Oh yes, Van Gogh.
Today?
Yesterday, dreary, awful, boring.
How
Terrible.
dare you? All of them that are atheists.
Atheism is
you
for
need
people with
religion to be
mediocre
a good
intelligence.
painter. It totally makes sense.
No, you need religion to be a good person, but you especially need religion to be a good artist.
Well, you need to pick and choose what you do that you decide is religious and isn't. Same with this Kim Davis lady deciding that the sins of these men were more important than their own sins. Or when you want to do ketamine and amphetamines and have sex with black guys.
I was speaking purely.
You were talking about
theoretically.
fivesomes at the age of 13. Okay, these are all not in the Bible. You can look in the Bible all day. You'll never find drag queen fivesomes. It's not in
Leviticus.
Out of water.
You know what? There's nothing more depressing than seeing somebody who you admire, who's obviously smart and clever,
who won't
and
buy into old fairy tales.
No, to speak so disparagingly about such a complex and fascinating part of who we are.
You're
now,
right.
Look at.
Yeah.
Totally.
Even if you take the view, let's say Ludwig Feuerbach, right? Even if you take the Feuerbachian view, and say, I don't believe in what any of these religions say.
Okay.
But if we look at what they have in common and what that says about the human spirit, what we aspire to, what we consider most important. So, for example, Christianity, we might consider self-sacrifice and love the most important things, because self-sacrifice and love are the two central instincts that run, the red threads that run through the Christian canon, run through Christian literature, run through Christian history.
If that was the most important thing,
say is this. Okay, I don't believe in this stuff, but this is an essential human artifact of human culture and history, because it teaches us more about ourselves than anything else.
Right.
It teaches us over centuries this has evolved to teach us what we find most important. And different religions in different places are fascinating because they illustrate the different emphases on those core values of love and charity and self-sacrifice that different societies place on things. Now, I'm not asking you to believe that that when you take Holy Communion, you're ingesting the body and blood of Christ. That's not going to happen.
God.
But what I am suggesting is you shouldn't be such a dismissive asshole about such an integral, rich, beautiful, and crucial part of human history that teaches us so much about who we are.
Okay, first of all, this is a disingenuous argument. This is a disingenuous argument because you were mocking me about making fun of things that are absolutely preposterous, like coming back from the dead, healing people, turning wine.
No, what I'm saying is, even if you only believe their stories, these are the most important stories that the Western tradition, the Western civilization,
most important stories.
The most important stories that have ever been told.
They're folklore.
Even if you believe that, they say something deep and profound about who we are and about what we care about most, about our anxieties, about our beliefs, and about our sympathies, the way we relate to one another, the way that
that's adorable. Just because you say this doesn't mean it's true. You
the way that we ought to
right?
organize.
This doesn't rationalize ridiculous stories.
I'm presenting one reason why you should be less flippant and dismissive about religion, because you are too smart to be that much of a cunt about religion.
No, I'm flippant and dismissive about it because I can't believe it's still here.
You are far too smart. You are far too intelligent and individual to treat religion with the amount of contempt you do. This is what assholes do. This is
not what assholes
mediocre intelligence,
is
militant
exactly what you
atheists
accuse
do.
feminists of doing.
No, it's not.
You're distorting the argument. The reality is we're talking about myths, and we're talking about people that believe those myths so much that they won't let people get married because it goes against their myth.
And I'm saying that you can disagree with them.
Isn't that what happened?
You can disagree with.
But that's what happened, right? Where's the love and compassion from Kim Davis?
You can disagree with everything that they teach. You can say that it's nonsense. You can agree that you can, if you want to agree that it has bad consequences in society. That it's an anachronism from the past.
Consequences.
What you shouldn't do is ridicule and dismiss, sort of the Jewish zombie shit, right? You're just doing it to be outrageous. You're just doing it to provoke.
No, that's what
and
it is.
You shouldn't do. And look, there is
I'm not doing it to be outrageous.
There's a good place for outrageousness and provocation, right? And I'm not trying to put you on trial here. What I'm saying is you're too smart to fall into this habit, and it's a leftist thing, this militant atheism crap, where you dismiss the central importance of religion to our culture and
what
to
is
who
the
we
central
are.
importance?
Well,
it got us through barbaric days with rules where we worried about the consequences of God's punishing us.
Most of our laws are based on religious prescription when you get down to it.
But
most of the way society is organized
is
based on what's ultimately religious prescription. My point is simply and only that if you're going to be a flippant asshole, at least acknowledge that, first of all, half the population, does take this stuff seriously. And second of all, this is important stuff that tells us about who we are. And I think it's beneath you to be so flippant about it. I'm flippant about feminism because feminism
is not important stuff that tells us about who we are today.
I'm flippant and cruel and vindictive and spiteful and horrible about crazy feminists because they're crazy and because what they do is ridiculous. I don't think, whether or not you're an atheist, that religion is ridiculous. And I think it deserves a bit more respect.
Well, that's fine. You're allowed to think it, but just because you think it doesn't mean it's right.
No,
and the
fine.
idea that it makes you a flippant asshole because you're unwilling to accept myths. You're unwilling to accept things that make no sense whatsoever. You're unwilling to accept things that are scientifically disproven.
You're not acknowledging the extent to which religion has made you who you are. I mean, from the speech codes,
the rejection
from
of
the
it, maybe?
speech codes that you grow up with, your moral codes.
Come on, stop. That doesn't mean the myths aren't stupid.
No, I didn't say that.
It doesn't mean the myths aren't stupid.
Atheist.
No, you You know what got us to here? You know what got us to here? People. People, not religion.
Your sense of right and wrong.
Religion, which was created by people.
Your sense of right
people
and wrong
did
comes
bullshit.
From a Judeo-Christian tradition.
Bullshit.
And it's interesting.
Your sense of right and wrong does not come from that. That's not true.
Very angry.
It's not true.
Your sense of right and wrong comes from Judeo-Christian tradition.
You got to stop saying that because it's not true.
I haven't got to stop saying
it's cultural. It's cultural.
So I see.
There's right and wrong in other cultures that's completely different from what we consider right and wrong in America. Look at New Guinea. Do you know about the sperm warriors in New Guinea? These men that take these young boys when they're young and inseminate them, put cum in their mouths and their asses to make them grow. They do that from the time they have
Isn't that just called homosexuality?
No,
sounds great.
It's their culture. It's what's right and what's wrong for them. Things that would be absolutely illegal, would lock you up in jail for in America and in Europe. In New Guinea, this is like a great long tradition, a big part of their culture.
And they're not Judeo-Christians, are they? No.
It's cultural.
Yes, exactly. It is cultural. And you grew up in a Judeo-Christian culture. Therefore, you have good values that I agree with.
Bullshit. Bullshit.
You just made my argument for me. You made my argument for me. You just made it for me. You grew up in a place where there's Christianity. You're a good person. This place where there's no Christianity, they come in boys' mouths.
There's one place that has a fucked up way of looking at things. It's a cultural thing. It has nothing to do with Christianity.
Everywhere that doesn't have a strong Christian heritage is a fucked up place with bad morals.
That's a ridiculous statement. That's a ridiculous statement. Everywhere that doesn't have Judeo-Christian values is a fucked up place.
I think that I think it should be perfectly reasonable, respectable thing to say that our culture is better. I believe our culture is better than everywhere else in the world.
Culture of Christians.
I think
doing ketamine and fucking each other.
European and American culture, which is based on Judeo-Christian values, is better than other cultures. I think it's uncontroversial to say so.
But what's based on Judeo-Christian values about being a good person?
Ultimately, our sense of right and wrong comes from the Bible.
What?
It does.
What comes from the Bible?
Ultimately, our sense of right and wrong comes from the Bible.
Our sense of right and wrong.
I think your sense of...
there's the only way that a person could have ethics and morals and treat each other well.
No, I didn't say the only way.
Don't you think that people understand what's good and what's bad? Listen, if we're going to have a conversation, we can't keep talking over each other like this. When someone's trying to make a point about something that's complex like this, if you think that the only way for a person to have ethics or an understanding of each other or compassion for each other is to rely on ancient myths that are easily scientifically disproven, well, that's what Christianity is.
No, I didn't say that. I
said that
the specific set of values that you have is influenced more than you would like to admit by your Judeo-Christian heritage.
It's influenced by
there are certain things that I think
factors.
all of us have. I mean, look, I think that some of what we would call morality obviously comes from natural revulsion, which is more like biological, right? Then this is some of the prescriptions perhaps against murder, perhaps against child abuse, that kind of stuff, right? Comes from a sort of natural revulsion, and it may be an evolutionary biological imperative. There are certain things that we just know we shouldn't do, right? And that's our body saying, ugh, no, like the smell of rotten food, or stuff like that, yeah. But there are other things that definitely come from the Judeo-Christian tradition that has defined most of what we consider to be right and wrong in the West, and I think our society is the better for it, and I think that our society is better than elsewhere in the world.